in campsites because we're back, but not really, because instead of a campsite, it's more of like an insane asylum campsite, but it's a campsite with campers nonetheless. They're campers if they get murdered, ultimately. I think that's if you're anywhere near the woods and you get stabbed, you fall within that category. I both enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it, and ultimately felt very neutral on it. But the things that I did enjoy on it, I think this is the closest to part one. And I think that's because, again, it's kind of just wiping the slate clean again because it's a new protagonist. And we get a little young Corey Feldman for like a minute. And then we get this new adult version of Tommy Jarvis. Who would have thought after fighting off a hockey guy, you get sent to an insane asylum, and of all the kooky people in that household or in that kind of rehab center, he is the kookiest of them all.
So, like, when I watched this the first time, there was no online spoiler. Like, I didn't look at reviews. I was young, and I was watching movies like this when I really shouldn't have been watching them. So just getting it in front of me on a VHS tape and seeing New Beginning, it's like, whoa, like pretty cool. Playing the movie the way it was, like the way it rolls out was actually pretty cool. Like my brother and I used to say like, hey, this is a faster Jason. There's scarier kills. Like there's always like some upscale of it. And it's just always like, there's always this picture painted when you're watching like a new Friday the 13th or new horror movie in general. And this does do a good job right off the bat at building up the ante. I think Corey Feldman was like actually too damn good for this movie at this point. I think he was doing like Gremlins or Goonies or something like that. And he's just like going set to set. Like it's like wholesome film. Like, wait a minute, I need to get murdered by Jason real quick. I'll be right back. It's a whole, don't worry, this is the last one. You know, it's like, I'm going to just run over this set really quick and just get hacked a bit. Anyway. It is a fun movie, though. It is a really fun Jason film. A lot of people claim it's their favorite. It's literally Halloween Ends vibes, where either people loved it, and they're like transcendent, and other people are like, no, I hated it. It's garbage. It doesn't exist.
I feel like even with Halloween Ends, maybe much to the sadness of Halloween fans, it kind of definitively gives you like, this is the path we're going through, kind of like with the most recent Scream film. It's kind of like it finds itself right in the middle of that beam, and it's too scared to lean either way. So it kind of finds itself in this kind of mundane spot. The parts that kind of fall is Tommy in itself, him being our protagonist, our final dude, I guess. I mean, we kind of have a final girl, but she's equally... she's way in the background. Like I forget who her name is and kind of where she kind of disappears and reappears. So Tommy's like our final guy. The first instance where I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. We're getting to meet all the people in the camp, and one of my favorite characters from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one, is the guy in the wheelchair. And I think he's like top 3 most annoying guys. And maybe right below or above him, maybe right below, is our chocolate eating friend, Joey, who is just going around trying to help with the laundry, just kind of doing Joey things. And he eventually starts bugging the wrong guy holding the axe. Who would have thought that's the guy you wouldn't want to be talking to? Bugs him enough, and this surprised me. I think this gave me the Friday the 13th shock they were hoping to give you in part 1 with the Jeep kill, where she's hitchhiking, and then it's like, oh man, we're following her for so long. Wait, she's dead? Joey gets axed, and it actually shocked me.
First off, I don't think it's worth being axed to death for saying that, hey, you were out of line, and then just getting hacked to bits. Like, I mean, at what point is this guy certifiable in the cap itself? It's like, you know, I can just imagine the interview or the drop-off process. It's like, I just can't stand critical feedback. And it's like, oh yeah, you're going to fit right in. But killing off Joey, he was like such a nice character. He was such a fun little dude. And you're like, I think, like you said, it's Friday the 13th-esque, where they just murder him off like right off the bat, and that's just like the cascade that sends us off into our adventure. When it comes to Tommy, like you said, he's so flat through the whole film. Like what drives me crazy, and skipping ahead a little bit, is like we see him get into 2 fights where he just obliterates his component, and then we have the classic 80s underwhelming finale of Jason, it's him, it's face to face, and then it turns into like total like aardvarking and like oh, don't hit me, don't hit me, and it's like what the hell? Like we've been building up the whole time to see you fight him. The characters are so fun in this movie. I love everybody, and it was such a disappointment to see where it went. I was just like, if it wasn't titled Friday the 13th, fantastic, transcended, as they say.
Here's a new thing, possibly something for the plot. Very interesting. We're kind of lingering on it, and it goes absolutely nowhere. We have the mom, our favorite hillbilly mom, who makes apparently the most delicious stews. Gordon Ramsay has nothing on her lips smacking stew, and apparently some dude just caught a whiff. A drifter comes on like, "Ma'am, I'm kind of hungry. Can I work for some food, for some supper?" And he kind of comes in. Maybe it's like, oh, maybe he'll be the guy that's going to fight off Jason or Tommy or whoever our new threat is, and goes to do some work. We get our classic teens getting it on. He starts perving out. He gets murdered immediately by Jason just because he's like, by osmosis, by observing the coitus. He's just like, okay, so we just like, hey, well, welcome along, new character. Oh, wait, no, you're dead. Sorry, catch you later. No stew for you, unfortunately. It's all for the son. How did you feel about, again, what I think is the backbone of this film, Reggie and his grandpa, and in particular his brother, that whole little interaction in the van where he's like eating enchiladas and he gives some jewelry. And then we have this really awesome, I think probably the coolest death of the film is the porta potty, stabbing through the porta potty where he's just like kind of like trying to dodge it, and eventually, blah, of course he dies. But who did you think was the standout of the group? I mean, that's my vote. I don't know about you.
I love Demon, his brother, like Miguel Nunez. He was one of the punks in Return of the Living Dead. Like he was one of my favorites.
Yeah, you look familiar. Yeah.
And of course, now he's like, the enchiladas do him in on this one, where he's like, oh, I gotta go take a shit. And well, I hope I hit that moment in my life where my wife will like sing in choir and chorus or whatever with me, like I'm sitting there just dropping a deuce, and it's like, ooh, baby, ooh, and it's like my wife just gets mad in general when I talk through the toilet door. I can only imagine if I broke out in singing and expected her to continue the tune. You know what I mean? Which then again, that's why they both died, because they broke the cardinal sin of talking through the bathroom door. I don't know. You tell me.
Speaking of Tommy and how shadowy and cagey he is, the reason why I think most of the kills in this film don't work for me is because you're leaning so hard on the mystery aspect of who is the Jason. So it's a lot of like, again, Friday the 13th Part 1, we're just showing hands holding something sharp, stab, or it's like a leg walking through a bush, kind of just to show you like the stalking nature of the Jason, but no full body Jason murder goodness. And, like Jaws, I mean, these tight shots could work if you're Steven Spielberg, or you're kind of, again, a seasoned master of your filmmaking craft. And Spielberg, they're not, unfortunately. For the few positives, the kills in a slasher, that needs to be one of the main things that need to hit. And they kind of were just like, hand, stab. So some of the cool ones, again, the teenagers, one of them got hit with like garden shears, and the other one got like a belt around like a tree.
It's a lot of sensual horror, like where they make noise and they do the gesture. But a lot of it's just makeup and cutaway and a lot of throat slit. And I feel like they tried to homage some of like the Friday the 13th Part 1 and Part 4 in a way where they had like Tom Savini, and they want to give you that real crazy gore. I feel like they had a few moments where they really tried to give us that, but I felt like either A, it was too gory and they just cut it out of the film, or B, they just didn't do it and just like, well, we're just going to do a cutaway. We're just going to do our own thing and just use your imagination. Like, this looks very gory. You just got to use your imagination. And it's like, it felt like everything that was a full-blown gore was either budgetary restraint, or it was just like, hey, like, let's just make it a cutaway thing. Let's just try to get a better rating or whatever it is. Maybe we know the kids are watching this. I don't know. Like, we'll just show lots of boobs and then just go with like what we think is interpretation of gory movie.
Who is behind the Jason mask?
It's
random paramedic man that you saw maybe like in 2 other 3 scenes, and until the cop at the end of the movie was like, oh man, that was his son the whole time, and it was like, oh, okay, because legitimately we have the whole fight scene where Tommy somehow loses his fisticuff powers but still beats Jason, and then the mask flies off and you're like, oh my god, it turns out it's middle-aged white guy. Wait, who is that? And then the nurse, this is a paramedic.
But then it's like you got, and I love the slasher logic where it's like anybody can survive anything. It's like you literally get like cut up by a chainsaw, hit by a bulldozer, stabbed, all these other things, and it's like this middle-aged paramedic is just like, flesh wound. How did the two officers, these two stupid officers, like, and they're getting yelled at like it's an 80s what is it, like Beverly Hills Cop or like Bad Boys or something like that. It's like the chief is like you like how do they survive? They should have just like killed them off too. I mean, instead of adding the drifter into the Ma and Pa Kettle scene, like you should have just made it the police officers.
Up until now, yeah, I don't think Jason has killed any cops, right?
I feel like he did. I don't know. We have to watch it. Everybody watch the reviews that we did for 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then I think we talk about him killing cops in one of those, maybe.
I think Jason just hates the nurses and the doctors of the world.
He killed the cop in the second one. There you go. I remember it now. He hit him in the head with a hammer, remember?
He hasn't killed a firefighter yet, so he loves the fire department. They're the most neutral of all of the services of America. So no fire department killed yet. Michael Myers hates the fire department as established in Halloween Kills?
Absolutely.
This film, I think the highlights of our other teenagers was good enough, especially with Reggie and his family, to boost it up to a 3 out of 5 star for me. There are other things that I want them to focus on in future installments, and having already seen 6, I think they will deliver on some of those wants of mine. But as it stands, I think in a marathon of Friday the 13th films, it might fall, like I think right now, probably 3rd on my like priorities of what to watch. But what about you, Mr. Nick?
Friday movies, anybody who knows me knows that I put this movie dead last, and it is 1 star. It is my least favorite, and I choose not to acknowledge it. I will own it only as a collection piece inside of like the box set. Like, I will not individually purchase the VHS. I will not individually purchase the DVD. I will only buy it if it's pre-designated in the box, because I have no choice, and it would be a hole in the box. I can't handle that.
Because then you have slanted DVDs, and that's unacceptable right there. An
Absolutely.
incomplete DVD set. But to be fair, that was also the most pristine DVD. So if in your collection for resale value, that's the best one. But probably no one would buy it, except for me and all the Halloween End fans. Halloween End. Check it out. Check out the next Screen movie. It's gonna be directed by Christopher Landon. Happy Death Day. The Go. I don't know if you heard about that, Nick. It's gonna be so sick. I'm so hyped on that. Christopher Landon. Scream 7, it's gonna be sick, but forget that. Before we get to 7, we gotta get to 6. Which 6. Stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things. Nick, please send us out with that camp counselor.
Blood, guts, spit, and ass. That's how we roll. Thank you, everybody. Ring the bell and subscribe.